Freedom fighters, I'm coming back at you with another one. Well, today's video is going to be a controversial take here on a recent news story. And I was thinking about it a lot over the weekend. And I kind of did a video like this before a while back. I think it was called Kangaroo Courts. So this is going to be kind of like a part two to that. But, I think before I get into it and upset a lot of people and they change the channel, I'm going to talk about some other points that I wanted to make. But, the whole thing about the court systems and equal justice under the law, the famous Lady Liberty blindfolded with the equal scales and all that. And I've never bought into that. That farce is, completely untrue. If you understand the human mind, the human condition, they're always going to take sides. There's always biases, and, they're going to side with people depending on whatever determining factors, race, religion, other things that they see themselves in or that they identify with. And I know judges are supposed to take you know, um, a point away from their political affiliations or how they believe, but the human condition doesn't allow that. But I kind of thought of an idea that how it should be done, and I feel like court cases and stuff like that should be held, in an anonymous setting with almost like, cartoon characters. I'm not even sure if I talked about this before in that Kangaroo Court video because it was a long time ago, but imagine if they just used like Homer Simpson style characters, like yellow figures, or like NPCs, just gray, colored, random characters, and said, you know, character A was caught, in someone's house, or, and then, or no, person B was in character A's house, after he shattered the window and crawled through, you know, the window and attacked victim C, which was A's daughter, and then victim A opened fire on B. You don't need to know who B is. You don't need to know their race, their religion, or anything to come with a conclusion B was in the wrong. But anyway, like Kyle Rittenhouse, for example. I was making this point back in the day. I think it was at freaking Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, called Kyle who white supreme and all that, and then later on, actually changed her mind and was like, you know what? If I was walking down the street too, and some guy trying to hit me over the back of the head with a skateboard, and then a guy knocks me over and points a Glock in my face, then maybe, yeah, I'm gonna start blasting as well. And even the Biden campaign said, oh, this Trump administration is making heroes out of who white supremes, and in that moment they put the infamous clip of Rittenhouse holding his AR. But the point I was making was it doesn't even matter if Rittenhouse was. I mean, he isn't, but even if he was, if he had SS bolts and, on his neck and the swastika on his chest and all this, it wouldn't even matter. He would have still had the ability to do what he was, because you still have the ability of self-defense as a who white supreme, or a black supreme, or, if he was an Asian yakuza and had, Asian gang tats all over him, or if he was like an Islamic State member, that doesn't bar you from the right to self-defense, you know. And then you got these people, AOC, at Neely's funeral was talking about, they always pick sides and they try to make a case before anything was determined. He was like, was it her or Reverend Jackson? Was like, he wasn't screaming threats, he wasn't opposing threats for anybody, he was screaming for help. Meanwhile, the J6, and people who were veterans, they're like, throw them in jail for treason, and, the cops that they love so much were sitting there abusing them in prison. They had no equal rights under the law. They couldn't even find lawyers. They were having reports that they couldn't even find people to defend them. So they were like cycling through public defenders. Some rookie guy that just got out of the academy or, got his law degree that's going to shaft you, who doesn't care at all. And they were they're in a political gulag. And then it came out that one of the wardens even tweeted like she wanted to eliminate white Republicans. And, you're not going to get equal, justice under the law, which kind of goes through the whole, their plan is that, we've seen them, the invasion, and they bus and, fly all these people all throughout the homeland, and they know that they're untouchables, and they can attack and, do anything they want, and if Americans fight back, they're going to be railroaded, and that's where I think we're going to end up. I've talked about it a lot. I mean, I think we're pretty much going to end up in a Civil War type scenario with Ruby Ridges and, all kinds of stuff where people are just fighting back, and they're like, we're not going to, accept this, and we don't we don't care what the optics are, or whatever media portrayal you're going to try to paint us as. And I don't know if you remember Joy Reid on one of her episodes pertaining to Trump even said he's going to find out, he's going to reach a demographic reality in DC, and was gloating, saying, oh, this judge, I don't even think the judge in his case was an American or something like that, and the Atlanta AG or the prosecutor or whatever is a Black Panther. And they were bragging about it, and they're like, oh yeah, Trump's gonna get railroaded, he's gonna get the shaft. There is no equal justice under the law. It's who you're being judged by. And I don't even know how you try a case like a president or something like that. In my example of, the character of someone. So it works in everyday cases like ours, Oh, character A was walking down the street, and B comes over and smacks her over the head, and takes her purse or whatever. Then you're like, okay, again, B is wrong. But when you're like, oh, President A is being charged with, so and so, you're like, okay, I know exactly who you're talking about. But in cases of, so the case anyway, I guess I got to get to the main story. What I was getting to was this Carmelo Anthony Austin Metcalf stabbing. And once you get over the initial, rage bait titles and stuff like that, which I'm going to admit I got onto at first, I was like, here we go again. But, further, and again, I don't have all the details. I'm just not jumping to an immediate, conclusion. But supposedly, the guy, Austin Metcalf, came in and he was, this Carmelo Anthony kid was waiting in the school's tent at a track and field match, and he told him, you're in the wrong tent, like, you got to get out of here. And he was like, I'm not moving or whatnot, and don't touch me. So it looks like Austin Metcalf might have been, again, I don't know, but he might have been antagonizing, and then maybe he put hands on him and tried to move him. And I'm saying maybe that ain't the right move. So what if Carmelo Anthony was in the wrong tent? You call up a security, or like, hey, coach, this guy's in our tent, he's not moving, whatnot. But to take it on your own and put hands on somebody. But then again, why is this guy at the track meet with a knife and he's like ready to go? I guess the question is, did he know him ahead of time? Have they ever had interactions? Was he looking for a fight? Again, people are saying it's premeditated because he brought a knife. But I could dispute that fact because, I bring I'm just gonna say I bring defense, things wherever I go. Just as always ready is the stance, right? So it's not like, oh, I'm planning on doing something. I'm always gonna be ready to defend. And then I've heard people say, oh, but it's a school zone and you can't have weapons and all that. And I've gone into that over and over again. Illegal, unconstitutional defense zones. I don't believe in that, but so that's kind of my hot take on that. And I'm just saying we're going to figure out, let's not jump to conclusions and see. And if you played that in and you didn't have this racial aspect and they said, character A was in the tent, maybe the wrong tent, maybe the right tent, I don't know, that never came out. And then character B came in and said, you're not supposed to be here and you need to move. And then character B assaulted A, where A ends up defending and stabbing. And you didn't know anything other than, they were using two characters, two yellow characters. You wouldn't be picking sides. You would look at it, unobjectively. But, that's kind of my system on this whole, you're getting judged by a jury or your peers and equal, under the law, which I've said about, Matt Hoover and Justin with the auto key card. I'm like, you can't give me a jury of my peers because this country is no longer a jury of your peers. People don't believe in the Constitution. They don't believe in freedom and all this stuff. And that proves in that case. A jury in Florida, by the way, again in a red state, was like, oh no, you're selling automatic machine gun parts. Like, that's clown world to me. That's anti-freedom commies to me. And that's what was in Florida. And Trump is always talking about, he's always railing on truth nonstop about the legal system and the corruption and the police and the deep state. But then he goes back and praises them all the time. And I think it was my video where do we want Trump to get arrested? Was the video I was saying where it's like, we don't stand by our morals when our people get arrested, and we allow it all to happen, which is going to be a whole nother video in itself. But I was looking at like Bastille Day, or like there's actually this mission in Red Dead 2 where like you break one of your friends out of prison, but that stuff really happened back in the day. And when people get unjustly thrown in prison, people usually used to free them. They wouldn't let that stand. And I've talked over and over about Dexter Taylor's case. A man just no criminal record at all, making his own firearms. And he's now sitting in prison with a 10-year sentence. And, we do nothing about it. And we just allow him to rot. And because we no longer believe in freedom, and we're all part of it, and myself included. But I know, like, what if you go over to the prison and try to attempt to break them out? You're not going to accomplish anything on your own. And then you got Israel a while back. They actually almost had a civil war, and they stormed a prison over the ability for their soldiers to grape and assault, the people they're at war with. And it's that kind of energy we need, but for righteous causes, right? People who are having their rights violated and their civil rights, constitutionally protected, freedoms, and we just let them rot away. But man, let me know what you think of my opinion here. Is that a better way to solve the court system or whatnot? Let me hear your opinions. But till the next one, man, you know what it is. We are on our own. Nobody's coming to save us. So get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom fighters out.